Welcome to a presentation of eAssessments for Inside on myngconnect.com. myngconnect.com is the website provided to you from National Geographic Learning with all of your resources and student resources for Inside. Inside is our middle school ESL Striving Reading Program for students. eAssessment is a subscription resource purchased by the district for your students so that students are allowed to take assessments within MyNG Connect, and you as teachers, principals, administrators are able to go in and review that data relative to each student. So what we are going to do as we spend our time together today is actually review eAssessments on myngconnect.com. Let's go ahead and log into that website. When I go to myngconnect.com, I will find all of the content available for me, the teacher, as well as I'll see the resources available to my students. Students have a separate login, but you, the teacher, have your account with your login information as well. Just as a review for you, across this top banner, you should find your name, your school, your district, and if you have several classes of Inside, you can use this drop menu and find all of your rostered classes here, meaning all of the classes with all of your students by name. This demo account contains only one class, and all levels of Inside are in this one class. I will remind you of this help button, which provides for you a user guide to help navigate through myngconnect.com. All of your student books and teacher books are indicated in this section of the website. We refer to this as the carousel of books because as I scroll through, I see my student edition as well as my teacher's editions for each level of Inside. So everything is housed here in one place. Below your carousel of books, you will find an additional listing of resources that are available to you. I will mention this professional development tab because within this professional development tab, you will find additional tutorials that will help you navigate through myngconnect.com, the comprehension coach, and this one is, of course, for eAssessments. We are going to go ahead and launch eAssessments. And before doing so, what I would like to share with you is myngconnect.com is where all of your resources are. eAssessments is really going to launch what we refer to as the User Management Console. And when I launch my User Management Console, it opens up in a separate window. MyNG Connect is still there, but now we are in the User Management Console. And before we get started, let's talk about this top banner here. I want to direct your attention all the way to the far right of this screen, and you'll see an additional help button. This help button also provides for you useful documents and frequently asked questions that you might have about the User Management Console. So when I click here, I see login help that I can find. I see user documents to help me get started with eAssessments or using the User Management Console. And then I also find information for technical support as well. So I just want you to know that this help button provides you even more information than the help button that's resting here on MyNG Connect. The majority of our time today will be spent using this menu bar, and I'm going to focus on two areas of this bar here. We will focus on the Manage tab of this row, as well as Reports and Grading. Manage and then Reports and Grading. Let's start with Manage. And I want to start with Manage because this is probably one of the first places you will go to when you enter into your UMC. All of these are set up by teacher, by class. So if you have more than one class of students using Inside, you'll find all of them listed here. And if you want to assign a test to students from any of your classes, this is where you will begin. The fastest way for you to find your classes is when you click on Your Manage, it picks up this button that says View Classes. If I want to just click the green search button, I can click the green search button and it will actually find for me all of my classes. I am in a demo account right now, so there's only one class here. And I want to click this green view in order to view that class, because in order for me to assign a test to students, I need to see that content. So I'm going to view the class, and when I view the class, it's going to open up yet another window. So I'm in this class entitled Inside All, and if I wanted to see all of the students in this class, I see all of my demo students that are here for this class, and then I also see a tab that says Tests. One of the nice things about Inside eAssessment is that every assessment that you want to share with your students based upon the level you are teaching, all of those assessments are preloaded. You don't have to do it at all. It's already been done for you. And I'm going to use level B in order to show that to you. So I'm in my level B assessment, and I'm looking at all of my tests for all of my units. And if I scroll down, I see that there are a total of 65 different assessments available for me to use. But I don't want to go into all of those assessments. I just want to go into one. So what I'd like to do is assign a test to my class. And I see that several of these have already been assigned. So I want to scroll and find one that has not yet been assigned. So I am going to use the Level B Unit 3 Selection 1 test, because I see that it has not been assigned to any students, and I also see, of course, that no student has submitted that. And I know that's what these two rows are, because here at the top it says Submitted with Tests, Activated Tests, Assign and Update, and Preview. So let's go back to that particular test, Unit 3 Selection 1. And let's preview that test. I can use this magnifying glass in order to preview the assessment before I actually assign the assessment to my students. Keep in mind, I am the teacher. I am logged in as the teacher. So when I launch this preview, the answers are going to be provided. It's a preview and it's only for me. Once the assessment is assigned, students, of course, will not see a response. They have to provide that response. So let me go ahead and click on the preview so that I can preview this assessment. Once it loads, I can see that this particular test item has 19 different items available. And as I've indicated, the answer is provided for me, the teacher. I can click on a couple of these so that you can see some of the different types of assessments. Here's a complete multiple choice, and here students actually have to read this passage and then respond to that question. So it's based upon what they've read. And sometimes students even have to, as they do here, sometimes students even need to write a response. And so students would actually write their response here and submit that response to the teacher for the teacher to supply a rubric score. So we've previewed the test and I'm okay with it. So I know that I want to go ahead and assign this test. So let me close out of this window and go back to my window that shows my assessment. So Level B, Unit 3, Selection 1. I've previewed the test. Now I want to go ahead and assign the test. So using the green button that says Go, I'm going to assign this test. And I'm going to take this off for just a second. So, number one, if I want to assign this test to every student in the class, I can use that Select All button. Or I could assign this test to only a few students in the class because maybe everyone isn't here today and I don't want them to be able to access the test. But in our case, I'm going to say, yes, let's go ahead and assign it to everyone. So this test is not yet assigned, as you see here under test status. But I do want to go ahead and assign this to multiple students. Keep this show optional settings in the back of your head for just a moment. So I'll click on multiple students. The only thing required of the system by the teacher is to provide a test date. No assessment is viewable to students until the teacher assigns the test to them. So when a student logs into their account, they don't see any assessments there until you activate that assessment, which is what we're getting ready to do. So I want to activate the assessment, and I want to say this test is going to be tomorrow, or be on this date, I should say. Notice that window for show optional settings is here as well. And I want to encourage you to activate this on this previous page back here so that it automatically defaults to every assessment you pick up. I'm going to go ahead and activate it here, and let me show you the benefit. By activating the show optional settings, here are several things I can do. I can assign the test as to when I want it to start, as well as when the test is due. And I want to enforce the due date. By enforcing the due date, the test window is available only on the date I provide, meaning no student could access that test before that test date or after that test date, because I am enforcing that date. I also, because I have worked with middle school students, want to set some additional parameters. I want to set a time parameter. I want this test available only from 8 a.m. to 9:30 on this particular day. By doing so, students can only view the test when they are in my class, which happens to be a 90-minute block from 8 a.m. to 9:30. So this test is only available on the date I choose and the time parameter that I choose. I would strongly encourage you to also disable the test review. What that does is, I have a class of B-level students who meet with me at 8 o'clock in the morning. I also have a second class of B-level students that meet with me at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. By disabling the test review, my first period class cannot share answers with correct answers with my afternoon class, because they were not able to see the correct answers. That's what disabling the test review does. It will allow students to see a score, but it won't allow them to see the correct answer on the test when they take it. So I want to update this, and it's going to ask me to confirm this information, my date, my test window, and my review. And I say, yes, I want to proceed. When I click this, if I've done everything I'm supposed to do, then there will be a menu that says this test has been activated successfully. So now that test is activated, and you'll notice that show optional settings is also activated. If you recall, when I first went here, I deactivated that. If I keep it activated from this point, every time I open a test, those options will show, just to make it easy on myself. So this test has been assigned to all of my students. It's for this date, it's enforced during this time frame, and the review has been disabled. If I get to class on test day and realize that some of my students are not here, I could click on that particular student, update this again, and say that this test is not going to be assigned. I'm just going to unassign this test from this student because they are not in class. I can always go back and add that later. I'm not going to disable it right now. I'm going to leave it assigned with the rest of the class. So that is done through the Manage button under your UMC. Now, the rest of our time during this tutorial will be spent under Reports and Grading. Let's assume that my classes of students have all taken a test, and I'm going to click on my class, and I see available to me any report or every report applicable to my students in my class. I can't see what any of my neighbors have done. I can't see what content from my best friend who teaches at a different school has done. I can only see content as it relates to my students. And as I look at these reports, all of these will have some information in them once the student takes that particular test, be it the placement test, the gains test, or a selection test, or a unit test, whatever the test may be, I'll be able to see that information. Let me give you an example by clicking on the selection test for this class. When I click on that selection test, I see that the Selection 1 test has been taken by this class, and this is the class information. And if I scroll down on the screen just a little bit, I see my class average for this particular test was about 79%, and I can see what each individual student scored here. Most of my students did very, very well, but I see this particular student didn't fare so well, so I want to spend a little bit of time looking at and analyzing what this student has done. So if I click on this student's name, I am now looking at the inside selection test by student, and I'm looking at student 2 because that's the one that scored 65%. As I scroll, I can see a summary of what the student did. So based upon the areas in which they were assessed, I see exactly how that student scored. If the student scored below a certain parameter, it lets me know that I have a reteaching lesson available. So I see that this student struggled with the vocabulary section, as opposed to me telling the student to write the word 5,327,000 times. There is a vocabulary lesson that I can apply with this student to help the student be more successful with the vocabulary. Not me just saying it louder to make it better, but actually providing more instruction, more individualized instruction for that student. And I also have one available for the grammar and sentence structure as well. If I scroll back up and I want to go back to my list of assessments, I click on Inside All, and this time, as opposed to looking at that selection test report, let's look at a unit test report. And when I look at the unit test report, this particular one, I see that, again, many of my students did very well, but I also very quickly, just at a glance, can see those students who didn't fare so well. And again, I could click on that individual student, see what they did, and if I wanted to change students to another one of those students in that class, I could do so by clicking the Go. And this student even scored a 95%. So I see where my students have done very, very well and whether or not they have mastered. I am going to back up one time so that I can go back into this. I was in my unit test reports, I do believe. And I'm going to click on one of the students that did not fare so well, so that, again, you find those students that have mastery, and I see this student did not master these mechanics for revising and editing. So that PDF, that reteaching lesson, is available for me to use, and my rubric is also available for me as well. So I'm going to go back to my class and my list of reports that I have available. And if I open up additional ones of these, you would see even more. One that I will open up, and this will be the last one that I open up, is this cumulative unit test. And I want to open this one specifically because this is a cumulative test, I am looking at my class as a whole, and it's telling me the unit test and which unit test they've taken. But what I want you to realize is that because I'm looking at this cumulative test that I cannot open up these individual students. In order to see what student 4 did, I can go to that Unit 1 test, where we were a few moments ago, and open up that individual report, but I cannot open that up from this point. So one more time, I'm going to go back to my Inside All list so that I can see one more thing. All of my assessments are here, all of my reports are here, but remember when we previewed the test a moment ago, there was an opportunity that indicated I, the teacher, needed to do some grading. So if I go to this section entitled Grading and open up my assignment take list, it's going to open up the assessments that require me to do something. As I look at this list, all of these assessments have already been manually graded. As I scroll down the bottom of this page, there are also some here that say auto-graded. Those that indicate auto-graded, all that means is there was no written portion on the test, and the system has automatically graded and calculated this assessment for you. But you'll also notice a few of them that say requires manual grading. These are manually graded. This one requires manual grading. What that means is you, the teacher, need to do something with this test. So let's open this test up. And when the test opens, I can see what my student has already done and their response on the test. And you see this teal green here, it's auto-graded. All of this has already been scored automatically, and I see that the student got it correct. I'm going to scroll down and notice the teal is still there, auto-graded, auto-graded, auto-graded. And I'm scrolling rather quickly because I want to get to the item that requires manual, there it is, requires grading. And you notice the color changes. So this was that written response that students needed to do. And even though the students scored and did everything they were supposed to do, apparently they did not write their response. And so I need to apply a score to that. Because there is no response here, I know that this student is going to get a 0. Had there been writing here, I could use my Teacher's Edition assessment manual and apply a rubric score or apply a score for that. Very important. So I'm giving the student a 0, but I'm not done yet. All the way down at the very bottom of the page, it says apply changes. If I don't do this, that score is not going to show up, and it's still going to say requires manual grading. But because I'm going to hit this apply changes, I'm going to do it now. And now that I've applied those changes, I'm going to go all the way up to the top of the screen and go back to my list. And you'll notice that that score has now been manually graded. I believe it was selection 2 of Unit 1. And now that grade has been taken care of. So this is what you would need to do when students have a written response. You will find all of your assessments embedded into this eAssessment tool so that you don't have to worry about it. And let me just recap very quickly what eAssessment and how you will use eAssessments. So when you enter into the User Management Console, and I'll do it one more time, I'm on my home page. I can enter the User Management Console here by clicking this button, or if I click on Class Management, the Class Management page will open, and I can access my UMC here as well. So if I click here, it's going to take me to that site as well. Takes me back to where we were. So we are back on the User Management Console, and I have found my classes. This is where I'm going to assign my tests under Manage, and under Reports and Grading is where I'm going to find all of those reports that are available to me as the teacher of these students, and I also am going to find where I need to apply rubric scores to the student's writing. This has been just a very brief overview of National Geographic's learning e-assessments for Inside. Please remember we are always available for you, but there is that help button that provides for you a user's guide to help you navigate through the user management console. We hope that this has been beneficial and we look forward to working with you soon.